Welcome to the workshop on client-centered parts therapy. Parts therapy is based on the concept that we have various aspects of our personality. There is a participant workbook that comes with this workshop, and those of you viewing the video should have access to the same workbook. Note the abstract on page 2, the bottom of the table of contents. This workshop discusses the concept of parts therapy and its variations: ego state therapy, voice dialogue, subpersonalities, etc., to help clients resolve inner conflicts, and explores the entire process step by step. Experts have used similar techniques for years based on the concept that we all have various personality parts, also called ego parts, selves, subpersonalities, and other names. The late Charles Tebbets based his parts therapy on Paul Federn's work, but evolved it into a client-centered approach and combined it with deep hypnosis in order to help clients resolve inner conflicts. I updated the work of Tebbets and explained why client-centered parts therapy differs from most variations of parts therapy. My client-centered approach is based on the concept that the client's inner mind can resolve inner conflicts when the facilitator acts as a mediator and asks the right questions. So with that introduction, let's launch right into the workshop. The table of contents gives you an outline of everything we will be covering today and tomorrow. Let's jump right into the introduction and overview on page 3. Again, for review, in different words, parts therapy is based on the concept that our personality is composed of a number of various parts. Our personality parts are aspects of the subconscious, each with their respective jobs and functions of the inner mind. In other words, we tend to wear many different hats as we walk through the path of life. The facilitator of parts therapy may talk to the various parts, acting as a mediator to help clients overcome subconscious resistance and achieve personal or professional goals. First of all, I want to spend some time discussing the variations of parts therapy. On page 4, the first variation, top of the page, is ego state therapy. It was pioneered by John Watkins and Helen Watkins over a number of years and has spread throughout the therapeutic world. Watkins wrote about ego states in several publications and books starting back in the 1970s. Watkins and Watkins, 1979. Gordon Emerson, PhD, takes ego state therapy into the 21st century at warp speed with his book Ego State Therapy, which is now required reading for my students. Emerson believes that all of us use anywhere from 5 to 15 different ego states within a given calendar week. So, according to Emerson, we all have various aspects of the personality, whether you want to call them parts, ego states, selves, whatever you want to call them. Voice dialogue is a very popular variation, and this was developed or pioneered by Hal and Sidra Stone, both PhDs. Anyone seriously searching for new ways of working with the inner mind will discover books about voice dialogue, which really is a variation. There's a very different variation that I only learned about fairly recently, which is called subliminal therapy. And it was developed over a period of decades by Dr. Yeager from San Diego. And he recognizes that we have parts, but rather than mediating with the parts directly, he goes to a part of the inner mind which has the inner wisdom, the inner intelligence, and he calls it centrum, and then he asks centrum to work with the parts. An interesting concept. And he has a book due out later this year from Crown House Publishing on subliminal therapy. I had the privilege of reading a pre-publication copy, and I would say it's worthy of a read. Chapter 8 of the Art of Hypnotherapy discusses parts therapy, but it does not go into the detours even though it discusses the steps. So if somebody wants a quick read on what parts therapy is, if you already have the Art of Hypnotherapy, you can read Chapter 8. The in-depth read for parts therapy is Hypnosis for Inner Conflict Resolution, Introducing Parts Therapy. And that was published by Crown House Publishing in 2005. Page 20 is the outline of a parts therapy session. You have my permission to photocopy this for your use with clients so that you can check off these steps if need be. The first phase is preparation. The second phase is the 11-step process, which is the parts therapy itself. And then the third phase is the conclusion, or concluding the parts therapy session. You'll notice these are divided into steps. We will go through each phase step by step in the coming hours. The first step of the preparation phase is to give a pre-induction discussion, including an explanation of the parts therapy process to your client. This is very important. Even Charles Tebbets emphasized this back when I studied under him in 1983, so that a client does not leave your office wondering if he or she has multiple personalities. We are now ready to explore the 11-step process. This is the actual parts therapy process itself. On page 24, I want to point out something about 1/3 of the way down that's in bold print. Remember this important metaphor in all of your parts therapy sessions. Act as though you are a mediator with 2 or more people appearing in conflict before you. The part I generally call out first is the part that is causing the presenting problem. Tebbets used to call that the offending part. I prefer to call that the conflicting part because that part is in conflict with the client's goal. There is a part of you that makes you snack frequently between meals, and it is doing a very good job. I'm talking to that part of John that causes him to snack frequently between meals. You are an important part of John, and there is probably a good reason for what you're doing. John is willing to listen, and I am willing to listen. When you are willing to communicate, please let us know by saying the words "I am here" or by moving the yes finger. Harry. Well, thank you. And what job do you do for Martha? I control all of her parts. I'm the secretary, and I'm the one that has the key to the filing cabinet where all the parts folders are kept. And you have to go through me to talk to any of Martha's parts.
Wow. That's interesting.
So I said, well, thank you. So I want to talk to that part of Martha that is motivating her to smoke, and I want to talk to that part of her that is motivating her to quit smoking. Okay, I'm unlocking the filing cabinet, and I'm pulling these folders out, and I'm putting them on the conference table.
There's a part of you that likes to snack from the time you finish dinner until you go to bed. And it's doing a very good job. Excellent job. You're an important part of Roy, and we know that you have a good reason for doing what you're doing.
Asking a question. Do all of Pauline's parts accept the terms of agreement reached here today? Please indicate with the appropriate finger response. Another good reason for having set up the finger responses prior to the session. And I wait for the finger response. I'll wait about 20 to 30 seconds for a finger response. They don't need to remember all of the details of the session. But I would like them to remember the terms of agreement.
The terms of agreement. Okay, that's okay. Gotcha.
There isn't any post-hypnotic suggestion here that I've heard, though. Is there? Did I miss it?
Conclusion number 1.
Step 1 of the conclusion, give additional suggestions and or guided imagery. These are post-hypnotic suggestions in step 1. What else can you tell her about the river to cross and the bridge?
That's okay, I guess. That's all right. It will make itself known. I was very deep, very deep. It almost felt like I had to come back to my body to get my hands working and coming up my arms and, you know, come back. But that was lovely, and that does help, yes. Yes. Especially the healing.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that I can move forward in my purpose.